Welcome. These will be my thoughts on The Flash, Season 1, Episode 18, All-Star Team-Up. The episode is rated TV PG, so this video be. There will be spoilers for the episode and everything else, the Arrowverse leading up to it. Not for anything Arrowverse or anything else that came out after this episode first premiered. Another episode that I absolutely love. So I wanted to, it is LGBTQIA plus Pride Month, and this episode does not lend itself that much to a reading, so I wanted to recommend, if you haven't already watched, the excellent recent-ish Jamie Dodger video on Chapel Roan, misogyny. I'm afraid I forget. There were a couple of more words to the title, but that definitely should make sure you find it. My research is sort of double check right now, but really excellent video. I, to this day, don't really understand. I don't think I've yet heard a good reason to really take issue with Chapel Roan. It all seems to just be people who decided to hate her, and yeah, I thought his video was really solid on it. Anyway, gonna try to keep this mostly chronological. So, getting into the episode, let's see, I think the very first thing we see is this kind of, I appreciate the duality of, on the one hand, it's going really well now that Eddie is part of working with Flash. They're catching so many people. But at the same time, it is also, you can sense a little bit of discomfort from Eddie, at least some of which definitely stems from the fact that he's hiding it from Iris. And yeah, the bit where like Barry shows up and like Joe's like, "So who's your friend?" I'm like, "Oh, right, I caught this guy on the," it's just like, to Barry, it's like, yeah, I caught someone on the way here. And let's see, yeah. The part where Barry like grabs their, yank, has the ribbon. So, you guys missed these. Can I just ask you, have you not heard of me? I love the arrogance there. Just like, what? How is there still crime in this city? Like, what are you even? And I think the next thing we see is the first of the bee attacks. It's somewhere around here at least. And yeah, so this episode is probably, I'm gonna try not to, it's difficult for it to not be especially special to me, because some of you already know this. The first superhero comic I ever bought, the thing that got me reading them for, I think it was around 8 years, 99 to 2007, at least, possibly a little before, a little later, I'm not entirely sure. It was a Spider-Man book, and I literally remember almost nothing about that particular book, except that the thing that got me buying it was that the villain on the cover was bee themed, or wasp, something like that. It was, I forget if he was made of them or he like directed them or something, but yeah, I don't know. That's just, I had to know, and I've long since forgotten. But yeah, got my attention, did the job of a cover, and at least for comic books, and yeah, I sometimes do miss reading this stuff more regularly, but right now it's just not in the cards. But yeah, and let's see, I think that is about. But yeah, first you hear some buzzing, and then just swarm of bees coming out of the, I forget what it's called, but inside the car, really really cool. And oh wait, no, am I remembering? No, wait, I think you only see a swarm coming out of the guy's mouth later. At this point, you only see one bee, if I recall, for the first victim. But I might be remembering it wrong. And let's see, I think the very next thing is the actually, that might be when Iris confronts Eddie. And yeah, points out, how, like, that she can tell he's hiding something. Good detail that she's been in the dark about that ever since the end of the... Yeah. And I guess that, ever since the scene where Barry revealed it. And let's see, we have the... I think that is when Star Labs talk about the nature of this particular villain. And I did appreciate that they did indeed have a character, in this case Cisco, be the bees, not the bees. Because, like, yeah, not everybody is equally uncomfortable about bees, but yeah. And let's see, the various conversation about that, and then Felicity shows up, and yeah, I feel like every single thing she says in the entire episode is just pure gold. Yeah, and clever, good bit of foreshadowing. Didn't realize that was what it was. It sounded just like a complete, well, I guess not non sequitur, but it didn't necessarily sound like the most, But yeah, the thing about they'll wait above the water and then to sting you, and then in this later in this very episode, he goes into the water, they follow and are fried, But yeah, and she says, there's something outside you should see, and they're like, we do have jobs, like how long are we gonna be staying here? And can I just say, I love these little, it's so corny, but I'm here for it. What is that? It's a bird? No, it's a plane. It's my boyfriend. Because he did play Superman, That's fantastic. And yeah, and if I recall, in that movie, they did do, I forget if they did the whole thing, but they did at least some of that. The bird, it's a plane, it's Superman. But yeah, the yeah, and he immediately reveals his secret identity to them, because that's the level of trust. Yeah, I mean, he really, really trusts Felicity because he hasn't even met the other two. Like, they know of him, obviously. He's famous. But yeah, and Barry being like, I don't know about this. This is dangerous to, being so close to Reverse Flash, but he also can't come right out and say it, at least not right away. And let's see. Yeah, I appreciate Felicity at first thinking that he's just jealous, because that is what it looks like. Similar to how Iris mistakes Eddie for cheating on her. And I think that is pretty much it for that bit. So yeah, they go for coffee, and she tries to get the information, and I think that, yeah, that not terribly long after, we have the suggestion for the date, where Barry has to be the fifth wheel, possibly the first fifth wheel in history to be arguably the least discomforted at the table, I feel like, even though he is obviously, he does want, he says he just wants Iris to be happy, and he makes her happy. And let's see, that's, yeah, so we get the second bee attack. I saw Emily Kinney's name in the opening credits, and my first thought was villain. I was a tiny bit worried that she was just gonna be like, oh, maybe just the daughter of a victim or something, but first instinct was indeed right. I thought I was ready. I wasn't. I think this might be my favorite thing I've ever seen her do, keeping in mind the other two are fighting zombies and Prince's battle rapping. But yeah, as soon as I saw, even though the glasses and the completely different demeanor from anything I've seen her have before, my first thought was not, who are you? Just she even gets puns, multiple, I think 3 puns over the course of the episode, just fantastic. And yeah, I appreciated the way that they had, like, we don't we just see the she like whispers to one of them, do you see that bad man? Tell your sisters to attack him. At that time, I did still think metahuman, because like maybe let's see, I was thinking some kind of insectoid mind control, and maybe she has like genetically manipulated them or something, and she was taking out robotics people because she considered them competition. But the ultimate explanation was also fantastic, in more ways than one. And yeah, Barry goes there, and yeah, the thing about like, sign of the bees, found the bees, and yeah, Cisco, having multiple flashbacks to the nightmare that he doesn't know until the end of this episode. Yeah, maybe by the end of the episode he has some idea, oh, it did actually happen, because like it wouldn't be your first thought, oh, it must have happened in another timeline and I'm receiving the memory because technically it did happen. But yeah, he accidentally sends Barry the wrong direction, and Barry is like, maybe he is working with Reverse Flash, and it is, it's such a effective, and again, the episode's TV PG, this is a really great thing for young people to understand. Like, if you encounter one person that is really awful to you, you might accidentally start suspecting people who in no way are trying to hurt you. And that's something that we really have to be wary of, try to recognize before it does harm. Because the thing is, like, there are a lot of relationships that can be destroyed by, that you'll want to keep going, that could be destroyed if you start like suspecting them when that isn't fair. They're yeah, given enough time and enough of that can, I guess, destroy almost any relationship. And yeah, that's really important to recognize. And yeah, and it works really well because the audience, of course, knows Cisco's not working with a Reverse Flash, like, not at all, And yeah, and the part where he mistakes Felicity for, she's like, yeah, I was joking. Right, and oh god, I have to. I'm sorry. It's contractual obligation, okay? The part where, the thing with, so I'm having this problem where I can't keep it up. The suit, he means. Oh yeah, the sex was great. Yeah, the sex is wonderful. Oh my god, there's 2 of them. That was amazing. That was just so good. Might be my favorite comedy bit involving Ray and Felicity so far. And there's been some fantastic ones. Like, genuinely, every single time Donna shows up, it's just, yeah, absolutely amazing. But the let's see, I think, yeah, and so, ultimately Barry, and really nicely done as well, that they're as fast as he is, he genuinely actually cannot outrun them, and suddenly they're everywhere. And that's such a great way to, like, because, once again, when you have a character with this much power, you gotta really get creative in order to, come up with some way for them to be in danger. And not every episode is him in danger. Sometimes it's other stuff he deals with. But yeah, that's, there's only one of him, and he can't really defend himself against these stings. So yeah. And yeah, the what's it called? The defibrillator, which ends up getting fried, which means for the rest of the episode he cannot, like, if it happens again, that's just it, so very nicely done on that. And yeah, the fact that we see that 1B did indeed stay inside the suit was very nicely done. And I think that does pretty much get us to... Yeah, I liked Barry talking to Joe, and the point about, well, they've saved your lives. Yeah, so has Wells. And that's also, I'm really looking forward to seeing how this is going to play out, because like now all of them are, well, I guess I don't know if... I'm not certain Kate is convinced by the end of this episode. Seems like Cisco is. And, I mean, she is brilliant. I'm sure she's going to approach it like a scientist. She has with other problems so far. Now, that does bring us to the 2.5 date. Feels weird to call it a double date when there's a fifth wheel. And, yeah, these little things of like, how did he get a table? Oh, he's rich. That's his superpower. And he bought out the entire restaurant. Was that too far? A little bit. And just almost immediately, it's this thing of like, oh, so you tell each other everything, huh? Interesting. Did you hear that, sweetie? Did you hear about that? They tell each other everything. And it's, again, like I've said before, like she's not coming right out and saying what it is she's bothered by, but she has already told him, that, like they say, it's been 2 weeks. Don't worry, Joe, I'm not going to repeat what it's been 2 weeks since, even if Eddie did. I was half expecting Joe to go, good. But yeah, Eddie knows what the problem is, and she realizes, oh, this is like an attempt to, like, we're supposed to pretend like we don't have this problem, and it, like, we understand why Felicity thought that this would be good, but at the same time, that's, and that, again, is something really great to teach young people, like, that's not gonna fix... You need to talk. You need to have a conversation. You need to communicate. And yeah, Barry leaves and Felicity joins, and then Ray comes in. It's getting really intense out here. And this is a guy who fought Arrow and flies, so if he says something is intense, he means it. And let's see, I feel like that brings us to the... Right, I also really like the bit where, actually, yeah, I think that isn't it around here that we have the, she goes to talk to... I'll just talk about it here, at least. Yeah, talks to Eddie, and then, Joe comes at work, and then Joe comes in, are you ever at work? And then he laughs because he amused himself with his dad joke. And let's see, I think that is when they realize about the right. That's, yeah. So they realize about the bee in and they say it's a robot bee. I think it technically qualifies as a bee bot or row bee. And yeah, I really like the bit where, yeah, Wells genuinely has to figure out, like, am I gonna, do I take this bee down and risk it all? Or what do I, because I could use my super speed to avoid this, but they're gonna know, and at the same time, it's like, well, should he risk cardiac arrest? Very nicely, and Barry gets it in time. And, meanwhile, like, the others are, like, running around. They're, like, back to back. They're firing, like, a fire extinguisher in the air, and, like, they're leaving holes in like, the room. So, how a lot of people react when there's a bee in the house. And yeah, it was so great when we see, the POV, and then it cuts to her, and just yeah, really, really nicely done. And so they're able to figure out her identity. So her name is Bree, and her thing is B. I love comic book naming conventions. Her name is Bree Larva, or something like bee larva. Fantastic. 10 out of 10. No notes. And yeah, and they realize, oh, they worked for the same company, and so the boss is probably also on the hit list. And I like that there's a couple of things. Wells clearly understands that she likes to be called Tina, but he still refers to her as Christina. And, wow, that bit with the, I know how you struggle to protect people, Harrison. I mean, there's not a bee in the scene, but that stings. And also the thing with like, are you here to see if, to get my prototype? Do you have another one? And let's see, yeah, not too terribly much later, the bees, are right outside the window, and then Bree's face appears on it. Will you let me in, or should I buzz myself in? And just like, yeah, she completely understood the assignment. She knows how to deliver a line like that, because like I've never heard her say something that like it feels like it's right out, like I could practically see the word balloon, it's right out of a comic book. And let's see, because some people will like overemphasize, should I buzz myself in, and sometimes that works. I feel like, didn't Black Scorpion do at least some that was like way over? It's been so long since I watched that, but then I only had it on VHS tape, and that's probably not gonna happen again anytime soon. I don't know. Maybe I'll see if I can find a inexpensive copy. I thought that was I think I only watched the first of those, but it was fun. Anyway, I think that does bring us to the, yeah, and then the bees start trying to break through the glass, and obviously at this point Tina is like, did my agent secretly sign me up for the third Candyman movie? Like, what is this? And no, I'm probably never going to let that one go. It's just, you're lucky that I rarely get a chance to reference it, because that genuinely is so unbelievable to me that they actually, that happened in a movie that shouldn't have happened at all. And I say that as someone who the movie has Bellic in it from Prison Break. Like, how do I not love it? But there you go. That's not the only reason, but I did videos on it back in the day, so no need for me to reiterate anything else. Anyway, yeah, genuinely really clever way to get Adam in the action. He goes up an atom, and yeah, because like, if Barry is stung again, defibrillator, but they're not going to be able to get into the Atom suit, and he can fly like they can, so it's, yeah. And it was so cool when Felicity, I like the thing with like, oh, Mama's been away from the keyboard for too long, and there's like a hacking fight between the two of them, just fantastic. I didn't know that I needed Emily Kinney as like a hacker roboticist with a bee theme, but Arrowverse knows better. And I think that does pretty much, let's see, there's at least one more thing I wanted to say about, no, yeah, that's when, yeah, so he flies into the water, and we have, they'll fry them, they'll fry me, it fried me. And yeah, catching him in the car thing, we'll catch you, Will what? And yeah, we have the we're gonna need softer gloves, because the understandably Cisco can't quite help but high five. Someone watched Terminator 2 recently, evidently. And let's see, I think, yeah, so Barry goes to the place, and yeah, like we thought all the bees were at Tina's, but instead there's still a bunch, and he can't. The defibrillation is not going to work, and the going back and forth between who's controlling them was fantastic. And let's see, I think that there's at least one more thing I really want to make sure is right. I did really appreciate Barry trying to convince Iris, and at first it seems like it worked, and she's like, "That was a good explanation," and meanwhile Eddie's like, "I am sure it was. Could you summarize it for me, maybe?" But ultimately she says it doesn't really matter, and yeah, the relationship status is yeah, and yeah, the thing about I'll be at my dad's house when you want to tell me the truth, so she moves out, and yeah, her noting, I would have thought you would like be jumping for joy that I'm leaving Eddie, and it generally is a good explanation. Now, I think, right, I will say that thing about, so, three guys are keeping secrets from Iris, and her boyfriend is like, when do I get as big a vote on whether or not to tell her the truth as her father? And her father says, when you're her husband. That was a little bit patriarchal for my liking, but I mean, I do also, at least one of them wants to tell her the truth. So that is something really appreciated when Joe pointed out, I don't know, loyalty makes people do really awful things, which, that is something that was true 11 years ago. It's true today. That is some of what we're seeing right now with people who still support Trump and ICE. And yeah, I think that does, like, genuinely, the slush fund, it's like there's no bottoms of the barrel, as if he hasn't already gone above and beyond in rewarding Jan Sixers, but that's all he wants. He just wants people to adore him no matter what, and all he's done for them, and then he can't go to his own son's wedding. Interesting. Now, I think there's at least one more thing that I wanted to make sure to say. While I try to think of it, I did want to note on the DVD, or is it Blu-ray? I forget. On my disc, there was a behind-the-scenes sort of thing on Trickster, which I, decided, and I'm glad I did, to wait to watch until after I had watched that episode. And yeah, it was really cool seeing it had some clips from the other Flash show, the one where the guy who here plays Henry Allen, not in this episode, but on the show, he played Barry on that, and it was fantastic hearing Mark Hamill talk about his love for comic books and the whole thing with tricksters in media history and such. I think, yeah, we are almost completely done. I like the Felicity, the thing with like, I'm sorry, Felicity, now it's not a good time, and she just rattles off a bunch of things about like, well, here are the things that I'm dealing with, so don't tell me. Yeah. And let's see. Yeah, it was also just really, really cool seeing an actual, I mean, as soon as I saw the title All-Star Team Up, I knew that there had to be some kind of, and yeah, just really great way to, bring in the yeah, get more of the team together, because I do think at some point these all might team up. And I also do like how, so a couple of things. The thing with, I thought Central City was supposed to be the fun one. That's a good bit of, because like that's part of the identity of the show, of course. But also the thing with the fact that, so the first time Ray, Ray in the suit meets Arrow, they fight. The first time he meets Flash, they work together. That's yeah. And also good job on coming up with a situation that Flash could not have handled entirely on his own. And the thing with how it's proven that Cisco is good because, and yeah, Felicity noting, she can tell when someone has a good heart, like Oliver. But the fact that, he took no one ever took a B for me before. I mean, it's not an everyday occurrence, And using the electricity to bring him back to life. Evanescence should write a song about that. And I feel like that pretty much... Let's see, there's at least one more thing that I really want to make sure to say. I think that does bring us to the teas that are there. Right, appreciate it. So the conversation with, with the thing of, oh, well, he used to be such a good person 15 years ago. But when Tess died, everything changed, and that is, of course, another important piece of the puzzle. And we, the audience, already knew that, but now that Barry knows and can tell the others, and it's very nicely done, because like that is the thing, like as long as Kate and Cisco has known Wells, pretty much, at least if I recall correctly, that he's been, that is the... So it has to be these people that knew Wells before Reverse Flash. Uno reversed him into a different person. And I think that does bring us to the post-credits tease. And just really, really cool. I like the thing of, we're going to karaoke. We're not going to karaoke, are we? And in the spirit of a recent thing on the show that I still want to only vaguely reference, just in case somebody else, or somebody, not somebody else, that somebody isn't familiar with that. Yeah, when Barry tells Kate that, like at first he's like, okay, so corporate wants you to find the difference between what we have on Reverse Flash and what we have on Wells. And then, cut away. They're the same picture. And, she makes some points, and I like that she is open to, she doesn't keep just saying, no, but that can't be, she's got the line about, well, he's, he's physically disabled or something like that. Is he? Because that is the thing, like, they've been willing to accept that. And, as I believe I have mentioned in an earlier video, is, of course, please do not, when you meet someone in person or hear about on the internet, please do not assume that someone is faking their disability, but, it works for this story. And I think it was also just back then we weren't as aware, like the mainstream was not as aware that that's, a problematic trope. But yeah, I was half expecting Kate, when he says, Wells is Reverse Flash, for her to respond, that's impossible.